Thanks for staying with us. Vincentian talent continues to shine on the global stage, and at the forefront of this creative wave is award-winning filmmaker Ackley Alton. With his unique storytelling and visually stunning productions, Alton has been capturing hearts and winning major regional and international awards, solidifying his place as one of the Caribbean's most promising filmmakers. In this segment, we delve into his remarkable journey, explore the themes that drive his work, and celebrate the accolades that are not only bringing him recognition, but also putting Vincentian cinema firmly in the spotlight. Let's take a closer look at how Ackley Alton is making waves in the industry. So we're here with a very inspiring, a very talented filmmaker, Vincentian filmmaker, and he's making waves not only locally but regionally and internationally. He is really putting St. Vincent on the map in some places that we wouldn't necessarily be, and it is my pleasure to have with us in studio today Mr. Ackley Alton. Congratulations, sir. You have been making waves and doing big for yourself and your country.
Yeah, thank you, Nika. I definitely appreciate this moment because you know me a long time now. It's been a long journey. And in this studio here, at least between me and Barvin, the word we just used to describe this filmmaker is hardworking.
That is true. You're very industrious. Now, can you tell me, let us reflect a little bit on your journey in filmmaking and what has inspired you to pursue this career?
Well, I guess the main inspiration is that good old Vincentian challenge, which is I have creative ability and interests, and how do I make business around it? And I guess that's what my story is. You know, I'm a Vincentian creative, and I got myself educated in creative industries in St. Vincent, and I wanted to see how far it would go because we don't, or we didn't, or we never really had lots of examples of creatives who have, you know, like made a profession out of whatever skill they have, and that profession be like their main source of income. We don't have that. Nor do we have athletes, right? And I guess I just wanted to, like, you know, take the risk and see how far I get. And even some of the things that happen now, it's not things that I dreamt. It's just things that manifested out of, you know, being committed, working hard, and of course having fun.
What challenges did or do you face as a Vincentian entering the film industry, and how do you overcome them?
Well, the main challenge is the perception that the entire space has when it comes to creative industries. What we're accustomed to in creative industry is what gives us a direct return on investment, and even that is dwindling right now. And when I say that, I mean like live shows, entertainment, kind of like live events. That's what we know as creative industry. But there are other aspects to the creative industry. There are knowledge products, there's intellectual property, there's all of these, you know, resources that we have at our disposal here in St. Vincent, and we don't necessarily focus on it. There's also like technique, like Mr. Pollard, rest his soul, he was one of the persons who I was collaborating until he passed last year. Yeah, he's a good example of like really talented haptic learner, you know, he could make things, create things, paint things, and over the years, those skills have sort of like dwindled in the community, and you might have one or two persons who kind of like leading in the media, but in terms of like the skill set in the community for our it's a thing that's important for our most important festival, which is Carnival. And the Carnival that I remember, I was born in the late 80s. So the Carnival that I remember, you know, the mass was a little bit more exciting. You know, you used to really come out to see the creativity, and you used to want to commit your time to go to the mass camp and, you know, like volunteer to build them and line with the crew and enjoy the celebration on the road. But
so that in itself was an experience.
An experience that is an extension of having creative ability fostered and developed in the community. And since we're doing that, and since we source in the mass in other places, China, you know, we're slowly losing some of our unique ability to express ourselves. And that's the challenge that I'm facing. It's a challenge that is a sort of it has a 360-degree revolving, I don't know, layers of obstacles around the solution. And yeah, it's a thing now we have to confront as Vincentians. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine there recently, and the truth is, I'm happy to see tourists up in Billy on a truck, you know, driving through the community. I'm happy to see that because I know the hills are beautiful, you know, the air is rich. But them down in town walking around, sometimes I'm annoyed because they look so bored. Like they're just walking around, you know, like they don't know why we're here, what's interesting, and you know. And sometimes when they see an archway in town that look interesting, we're like, move out my way, you know? And I feel like we need to have things for them to do. We need to have things for them to do in Kingstown, you know, because some of them may not have the budget to venture out of town,
right?
On the cruise ship,
sure.
You know. So we need to bring some of that heritage into town and have things for them to read or to listen to or to see, you know, and not just up in the cruise ship, because you ain't gonna travel around the world to come and stay in the cruise ship. You know, you have to come out, and if you're just coming out in town, we should have things to capture them right away, and those things would provide employment. You know.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that's the challenge. There is really how to like put some of the focus on our stories, our way of doing things, our life, and how to give that value and see how to use that value to enhance Vincent.
Were there any particular people or moment in your life that influenced your creative direction?
The first persons who kind of encouraged me would be my family, my mother and my uncle primarily. They noticed that I could, you know, I had these abilities, and they would buy me stuff to practice or even encourage me to like deface the walls in the house. You know?
Really?
Yeah, because you know, get the thing, you know what I mean? And so I feel like that was the first kind of like environment that kind of made me feel like, oh, like this is something that's...
It's not a ghetto thing though, it's a creative thing. And it's good that your parents and your family had that foresight to allow you to express yourself in that creative way.
You're right.
So I don't want you to say that in any other interview.
You're completely right. But the thing is, what I used to look at it is sometimes you acquire these things, right? And you put so much value into how the living room should look and how this should look. And sometimes you restrict your kids from being kids.
Correct.
You know? But in my case, I feel like there wasn't so much emphasis on the material things because we didn't have a lot. And it was really, oh, look at this amazing thing you could do it there. And then when people came, you know, they said, oh, you know, my son did that or my nephew did that. And that really encouraged me. So you're right, 100%. The other person that I often credit for my development in St. Vincent is Miss Vanya Rudette.
Yeah.
She was one of the persons who helped me to translate the ability into something I could wield.
Wow, very nicely.
Yeah. She was my teacher at community college, and she was also instrumental in me getting that first scholarship to go and study film. Because in St. Vincent, up until community college, like I was a guy who could draw and paint, and when I guess education in St. Vincent was done, I had to decide what I was going to do. I was a guy who could draw and paint, but who was studying business and who was convinced that art was a waste of time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my first job was actually at First Caribbean Bank. I was in the night deposits, checking people's money. And so it's just an interesting story, and I always credit Miss Vanya Rudette for opening my mind and my eyes to seeing, you know, the different way of valuing this thing I could do.
I'm glad she did, because look at where you were then and look at the transformation because of just some vision, not just with sight, but vision, what it can do. Now, we know that your work has, well, I think we know that your work has been exploring Caribbean cultures and the diaspora. You're really passionate about unearthing the stories within our culture, and particularly for you, St. Vincent, and displaying that to the world and connecting people, not just locally, but in the diaspora. Tell me, your work deeply explores Caribbean culture and the longing of diaspora communities. Why is this theme important to you?
As a Vincentian, you know, diaspora and the relationship between the foreign and the local is part of your understanding of self. My name is Ackley Olton. It's not a very popular name in St. Vincent. My last name is completely unpopular. And I'm also from like a mixed race family, you know. So some of my family is white, some of them are Indian, some of them are Carib, and some of them are black. So really like coming to my understanding of self, I literally had to like go on a journey to understand the history of the space and to know why certain frictions exist and why things are how they are. And that led me to all kind of things. You know, I discovered the politics. I was born in the region, you know, like Fidel Castro and what it means to like sort of like take charge of your identity, your economics, your way of life. And I also learned about people like CLR James and people like George Padmore, Eric Williams. And yeah, it led me to this understanding of like a Caribbean that could be like the ideas of Caribbean, the ideas of an evolving Caribbean coming out of emancipation. And also it introduced me to a time when they say was a time that they refer to as the golden era of like Caribbean intellectuals, when people were writing poetry and books and it was all about our way of life, and it captivated the world, literally. And yeah, I find that so interesting. Like, I find that so interesting. And in my own way,
I find it so interesting that you find that interesting, because not a lot of young creatives really go into that area. I think persons are more fascinated or interested in what's trending, the things that make sense to them but doesn't really make sense in a way, but I guess they understand it because that is what is, you know, mass produced for persons to consume. But the things about our history and our culture and the things that make us uniquely who we are as Caribbean people, mixed in all our different foods and our race and the way of we think and dance and move, is important to capture.
Well, that is literally what moves me. Like, that's why I'm doing what I do, primarily. Like, that's the reason. Because in the beginning, it's that, before I even figured out, oh, you have to make a business out of this, it was really about like, in a kind of a way, us and them, inside and outside, and how we value things. Because I grew up...
And how you balance things.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with the same thing where like, there was a time when, before I grew my hair, there was a time when in our community you used to get value, and maybe you still do, but as a young person, I remember it. You used to get value from some Jordans and some Nikes, and you know, and that's how people would assess who you are. And I know it still happens. I mean, it may be on a different scale, you know, but in a way, I sort of like went on a journey to renounce that and kind of like embrace more of defining and identifying who I am.
Just seeking and finding your identity in who you are.
Right. And now I want to contribute to extending it to the nation.
Nice.
Because you have to understand, we're just 45 years old, right? I myself am 36, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm old.
Okay.
Yeah. So you do the maths now, right? You do the maths.
You're getting up there, man.
Yeah, it's a degree here. So you do the maths now and you realize that, wait, we really haven't had a lot of time to really like figure out who we are as a nation. You know, that's why sometimes people feel frustrated when you try to say, oh, but what's Vinci? You know, we're starting to see it now because we're getting closer to 50, and it makes sense for us to be able to mature, to start to see it now. But yeah, that's what I really want to contribute to kind of like helping us to take command of defining what our identity is.